They said I was too old to understand money, until the bank manager asked them to leave. The words still rang in my ears as I stood at the counter, my hands resting on my worn brown purse. The bank was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes every breath sound loud. People stared. My grandson Mark stood beside me, smiling in a way that did not reach his eyes. His wife, Karen, leaned close and whispered, "Grandma, just let us handle this. You'll only get confused." I looked up at the bank manager. He was a tall man with kind eyes, but his face was tight now, serious. He glanced at the papers in front of him, then at me, then back at Mark and Karen. My heart thumped hard in my chest. I could feel something big about to happen, something that would change everything. The manager cleared his throat and spoke. "Sir, ma'am," he said calmly, "I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Mark's smile vanished. Karen gasped. I felt my knees shake. "What?" Mark snapped. "You can't be serious." The manager didn't move. "I am, please leave." I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could say a word, Karen grabbed Mark's arm. Her nails dug into his sleeve. Her eyes burned with anger, then fear. And that was when I knew. They had done something very wrong. But how did it get to this point? That morning had started like any other. I woke before the sun, the way I always do. Old habits are hard to break. I made myself a cup of tea and sat by the window in my small house, watching the street come alive. Birds hopped along the fence. A neighbor's dog barked. It was peaceful. I missed my late husband, Henry, in moments like this. He used to sit across from me, reading the paper, humming softly. He handled the bills, but he always explained everything to me. "You should know where every dollar goes," he would say. "It's our life, not just numbers." After Henry passed away 3 years ago, things got harder. I was lonely. I trusted my family to help me. Mark was my only grandson. I had raised him like my own son after his parents died. I loved him deeply. At first he came by often. He fixed small things around the house and brought groceries. Then he started asking questions about my savings. "Just to make sure you're okay, Grandma," he said. I believed him. One day Mark suggested I move some money into a new account. "It's safer," he told me. "Better interest." Karen nodded along, smiling sweetly. I didn't like the idea, but I agreed to visit the bank with them. That was supposed to happen weeks ago. Somehow it kept getting delayed. There was always a reason. Then last night I found something strange. I was looking for an old photo when I noticed an envelope hidden under my dresser. Inside were bank letters I had never seen before, statements, large withdrawals. My name was on them, but I didn't remember approving any of it. My hands shook as I read. My savings, the money Henry and I had worked for our whole lives, were almost gone. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, Mark showed up unannounced. "We're going to the bank today," he said quickly. "No more delays." I nodded and grabbed my purse, slipping the hidden envelope inside without him noticing. The drive was quiet. Karen talked too much, filling the air with jokes and plans. I watched the road and thought about Henry's words, "Know where every dollar goes." At the bank, Mark took charge right away. He spoke fast, using big words. Karen stood close to him, nodding. They talked over me, around me, as if I wasn't there. That was when Karen laughed and said it. "She's too old to understand money anyway." It stung, but I stayed quiet. The manager asked for my ID. I handed it over. He asked me a few simple questions. I answered clearly. His eyes softened. Then I placed the envelope on the counter. "Can you explain these?" I asked. The room changed. Mark froze. Karen's face went pale. The manager opened the letters and frowned. He typed on his computer, his fingers moving fast. Minutes passed. No one spoke. Then he looked up and said the words that echoed through the bank. They said I was too old to understand money, until the bank manager asked them to leave. Mark exploded in anger. Karen cried and begged. Security appeared at the door. And as they were led away, the manager turned to me and said quietly, "Mrs. Wilson, we need to talk. There's more you should know." My heart sank. Because if this was just the beginning, I wasn't sure I was ready for what came next. The manager led me into a small office at the back of the bank. The walls were plain, and there was a small plant in the corner. My legs felt weak as I sat down. My purse was clutched tight in my hands. "My name is Mr. Adams," he said gently. "First, I want you to know you did the right thing by coming here today." I nodded, but my throat felt dry. "They're my family," I whispered. "Mark, I raised him." Mr. Adams sighed. That makes this harder, but I need to be honest with you. He turned his computer screen toward me. I saw numbers, dates, and long lines of writing. He pointed slowly so I could follow. These withdrawals were made over the last year, he said. Most of them were approved using a power form. I frowned. What power form? He looked at me carefully. A power of attorney. It gives someone else the right to handle your money. My heart dropped. I never signed anything like that. Mr. Adams clicked again. A copy of a paper appeared on the screen. My name was at the bottom. The signature looked like mine, but it felt wrong. My hands shook. That's not how I write my W. Mr. Adams nodded. I thought so. We noticed small differences. That's why we asked them to leave. I felt a mix of fear and relief. Fear because someone had stolen from me. Relief because someone believed me. What happens now? I asked. There will be an investigation, he said. We can freeze the accounts that are left. Some money may be recovered. How much is gone? I asked quietly. He hesitated. Most of it. The room felt smaller. My ears rang. I thought of Henry, of our long years saving every little bit. I pressed my lips together to stop myself from crying. I'm sorry, Mr. Adams said, but there is something else. I looked up. There were plans, he continued, plans to sell your house. My breath caught. My house. He nodded. There are documents prepared, not signed yet, but close. I stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. They were going to take my home. Yes, he said softly. I left the bank feeling dizzy. The sun was bright, but everything looked grey. I sat on a bench outside and tried to breathe. A memory came to me. Mark as a little boy, running toward me with scraped knees, crying. Me holding him, telling him everything would be okay. How did we get here? When I got home, my phone rang. Mark's name flashed on the screen. I didn't answer. Then Karen called, then Mark again. Messages came in fast. Grandma, this is a misunderstanding. You embarrassed us. You don't know what you're doing. I turned the phone off. That night I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. I locked the doors twice. I kept thinking about the house. My house, the place where I had lived for 40 years. The next morning, someone knocked. I froze. Mrs. Wilson, a man's voice called, "Police." My heart raced. I opened the door slowly. 2 officers stood there, calm and polite. We'd like to ask you a few questions, one said. I invited them in. They asked about Mark, about Karen, about the bank. I told them everything I knew. When they left, one officer turned back. Ma'am, he said, you're very brave. Brave? I didn't feel brave. I felt tired. That afternoon, my neighbor Susan came by. She had heard shouting the night before. You okay? She asked. I nodded, then broke down crying. Susan hugged me tight. You won't go through this alone, she said. Her words helped, but fear still sat heavy in my chest. That evening, my doorbell rang again. I peeked through the window. Mark was standing there. And he was not alone. Mark stood on my porch with Karen beside him. Her arms were crossed. Mark's jaw was tight. Behind them, a dark car was parked on the street, engine running. I did not open the door. Grandma, Mark called softly, please, we just want to talk. My heart pounded. Susan's words from earlier echoed in my head. You won't go through this alone. Still, fear crept in. This was my grandson, the boy I raised. How could I shut him out? Karen stepped closer to the door. You embarrassed us at the bank, she said sharply. Do you know how that looked? I stayed quiet. Mark sighed. Grandma, you're confused. The police, the bank, all of this is too much for you. Let us come in and explain. That was when I felt something change inside me. A small spark, quiet but strong. I'm not confused, I said through the door. My voice shook, but I kept going. You took my money. You tried to take my house. There was silence. Then Karen laughed, but it was not kind. See, she said to Mark, she's making things up. That laugh hurt more than any shout. Please leave, I said. Mark's face hardened. You don't know what you're doing, he snapped. If you don't fix this, things will get worse. That sounded like a warning. I picked up my phone and dialed Susan. They're here, I whispered. She came out of her house right away. When Mark saw her, his eyes narrowed. "Let's go," Karen hissed. "This isn't worth it." They walked back to the car, but before getting in, Mark turned and looked at my house. His eyes were cold. "You'll regret this," he said. The car drove away. That night I could not sleep. Every sound outside made me sit up. I kept the lights on. I held Henry's old watch in my hand, rubbing the smooth glass. In the morning, Mr. Adams from the bank called. "Mrs. Wilson," he said, "the investigation is moving quickly. We found more irregular activity." My stomach tightened. "How much more?" "Enough to involve the courts," he replied. "You'll need a lawyer." A lawyer, the word scared me. I had never been in trouble in my life. Susan offered to drive me to a legal aid office. The lawyer there was a young woman named Emily. She listened carefully, taking notes. "What your grandson did is serious," Emily said gently, "but you have strong evidence." I nodded. "I don't want revenge," I said. "I just want what's right." Emily smiled sadly. "Sometimes doing what's right feels like revenge to the people who did wrong." That afternoon, papers were filed, accounts were frozen, my house was protected for now. But when I got home, I found something taped to my door. A notice. It said I had 30 days to vacate the property due to unpaid debts. My knees buckled. Susan caught me before I fell. "This isn't real," she said, reading it. "It can't be." But at the bottom of the page was a name. Karen's brother. And in that moment, I realized this was bigger than I thought. They weren't done. And neither was I. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the notice. The paper felt heavy, like it weighed more than it should. 30 days, unpaid debts. Karen's brother's name at the bottom, written so neatly it made my stomach turn. Susan made me tea and placed it in front of me. "We'll call Emily," she said. "This smells wrong." I nodded, but my hands would not stop shaking. I kept thinking about my house. The walls I painted with Henry. The marks on the doorframe where we measured Mark's height as he grew. How could someone try to erase a life like that? Emily answered on the second ring. Susan put the phone on speaker. "This notice is fake," Emily said after hearing everything. "Or at least it's meant to scare you. Do not leave the house, do not sign anything. I'll be there in the morning." That night, fear pressed on me like a heavy blanket. I checked the locks again and again. I slept in short bursts, waking up at every sound. Just before dawn, I heard a car outside. I peeked through the curtain. The same dark car from before was parked across the street. My heart pounded. I watched as a man stepped out. He was tall and wore a black jacket. He walked slowly up and down the sidewalk looking at houses, then he stopped in front of mine. I stepped back, my breath caught in my chest. The doorbell rang. I froze. "Mrs. Wilson," a man's voice called. "Open up, this won't take long." I didn't move. The doorbell rang again, longer this time. Susan's porch light flicked on next door. Her door opened. "Is everything okay over there?" she called loudly. The man stepped back, annoyed. "Just business," he said. "Well, take your business somewhere else," Susan replied. He glared at her, then walked back to his car and drove away. I sank into a chair, my legs weak. When Emily arrived later that morning, she looked angry for the first time since I met her. "This is intimidation," she said. "They're trying to scare you into leaving." "Why?" I asked. "Why go this far?" Emily met my eyes. "Because if you leave the house, it becomes much easier for them to take it." She explained everything slowly. Fake debts, fake notices, pressure, it was all meant to make me give up. "But I won't," I said quietly. Emily smiled. "Good, because today we fight back." The police came again that afternoon. I showed them the notice. I told them about the man at the door. They took photos and notes. One officer shook his head. "They're digging themselves deeper," he said. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. Later that day, my phone buzzed. A message from Mark. "We can fix this. Meet me, just you and me." I stared at the screen. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part wanted answers. Emily warned me not to go alone. Susan insisted on coming. We agreed to meet Mark at a cafe across town, a public place. When we arrived, Mark was already there, sitting in a corner booth. He looked tired. older. Grandma, he said softly when he saw me, I never wanted it to go this far. Susan sat beside me. Then why did it? She asked. Mark ran a hand through his hair. We were struggling, he said. Bills, debt. Karen's brother offered to help. He said it was just temporary. Temporary, I asked. You stole from me. Mark flinched. I borrowed, he said. I was going to pay it back. When? I asked. He didn't answer. Karen walked in then. She looked angry when she saw Susan. This was supposed to be private, she snapped. Susan stood. Then you should have chosen better actions. Karen leaned toward me. If you drop the charges, she whispered, we'll stop everything, no more notices, no more visits. I looked at her, really looked at her. You think I don't understand money, I said slowly, but I understand right and wrong. Her face hardened. You'll lose everything, she hissed. Mark grabbed her arm. Stop. I stood up. This is over, I said. The truth will come out. As we walked out, Mark called after me. Grandma, please. I didn't turn around. That night I felt something strange, not fear, not sadness. Strength. But it did not last long. Just before midnight my phone rang. It was the bank. And the voice on the other end said words that made my blood run cold. Mrs. Wilson, Mr. Adams said urgently, someone tried to access your accounts again, and this time they almost succeeded. I gripped the phone tight. Because if they were still trying, it meant one thing. They were desperate. And desperate people do dangerous things. I sat up in bed, holding the phone so tight my fingers hurt. Almost succeeded, I asked. How? Mr. Adams spoke fast. Someone came in using copied documents. They claimed you gave verbal approval over the phone earlier today. That's a lie, I said. I know, he replied. That's why the system flagged it. We stopped it in time. But Mrs. Wilson, this means they're not backing down. After the call ended, I stared at the ceiling. My heart beat loud in my ears. I thought of Mark's tired face at the cafe, of Karen's cold whisper, of the man in the black jacket. I got out of bed and checked the doors again. Locked, windows too. I sat on the couch and waited for morning. When the sun finally came up, Susan was already at my door. I made pancakes, she said, trying to smile. You need to eat. I nodded and let her in. As we ate, Emily called. We're moving faster now, she said. The bank tried to reverse some transfers. We also found something important. My stomach tightened. What? There's another account, Emily said. In your name, opened 6 months ago. You never knew about it. I felt dizzy. How much is in it? Emily paused, enough to explain why they're so desperate. I closed my eyes. This was never just about helping Mark. This was planned. By noon, police officers arrived again. They asked more questions, took more notes. One officer looked serious. Mrs. Wilson, he said, we believe this isn't only family theft. There may be fraud involving multiple people. Karen's brother, I asked. He nodded, and possibly others. The word others scared me more than I wanted to admit. That afternoon my mailbox clanged shut. Susan brought in the mail and froze. What is it? I asked. She handed me a thick envelope, no stamp, no return address. Inside was a single photo. It was my house, taken from across the street. On the back, written in black marker, were 4 words. You should have listened. My hands went cold. Susan grabbed her phone. I'm calling the police. Before she could dial, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mark's voice came through, shaking. Grandma, it's gone too far. What has? I asked. They're blaming me, he said quickly. Karen's brother, his friends, they say if I don't fix this, they'll take everything, even the house. But they already tried, I said. I know, Mark whispered. That's why I'm calling. I want out. I stood up. Then tell the truth. There was silence on the line. Then Mark spoke, barely louder than a breath. I will, but you need to be careful tonight. My heart skipped. Why? Because they don't scare easy, he said, and they know where you live. The line went dead. I looked at Susan. She saw my face and went pale. Outside, a car engine started. And this time it didn't drive away. The engine stayed running outside my house, low, steady, like it was waiting. Susan pulled the curtain back just a little. "It's the same dark car," she whispered. My chest felt tight. "Call the police," I said. She did. We turned off the lights and sat in silence. Every second felt long. My mind raced. I thought about Mark's voice on the phone. He sounded scared, real scared. After a few minutes, headlights flashed across my living room wall. The car door opened, then another. Footsteps. Someone knocked on my door. Not loud, not soft. 3 slow knocks. "Mrs. Wilson," a man's voice said, "we just want to talk." I did not answer. The knob turned. Locked. Susan grabbed my hand. "Stay calm," she whispered. The voice changed. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Then there was a sound I will never forget. Paper sliding under my door. I waited until the footsteps moved away, then picked it up. Another notice. This one said *** final warning in bold letters. And at the bottom a time. Midnight. My hands shook. "They're threatening me," I whispered. The police arrived 10 minutes later. The dark car was gone. Officers took the paper and wrote everything down. "You did the right thing," one officer said. "We'll patrol the area tonight." But when night came again, fear followed it in. Susan stayed over. We locked every door, we kept the lights on. Around 11:30 p.m. my phone buzzed. A text from Mark. I told them everything. I gave the police names, dates, accounts. "They're angry. Please don't open the door for anyone." My eyes filled with tears. "He's finally telling the truth," I said. At exactly midnight, something happened. The power went out. The house fell into darkness. Susan gasped, "That's not normal." I reached for my flashlight. The silence outside felt heavy. Then I heard it. Glass cracking. From the back of the house. Susan grabbed her phone. "I'm calling again." A shadow moved past the kitchen window. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. "Mrs. Wilson," a voice called from outside. "Last chance." I backed away, my legs weak. Then sirens wailed in the distance. Red and blue lights flashed through the darkness. The shadow ran. Doors slammed, tires screeched. Police flooded the street. I sank onto the couch, shaking. An officer came in and knelt in front of me. "They tried to break in," he said, "but they're gone, for now." For now. That was the part that scared me. Because if they were willing to come to my home in the dark, what would they try next? The next morning my house felt different, quiet but not peaceful, like it was holding its breath. Police tape still hung near my back window where the glass had cracked. An officer stood outside, sipping coffee, watching the street. Susan made breakfast, but neither of us ate much. Emily arrived just after sunrise. Her face was serious, but her eyes were kind. "They crossed a line last night," she said. "That helps us." "Helps us?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "It turns this from money trouble into a serious crime." I wrapped my hands around a mug to warm them. "What about Mark?" Emily nodded. "He came in early this morning. He gave a full statement." My heart ached. "Is he okay?" "He's scared," she said honestly, "but he did the right thing." That brought a small comfort, small. Later that day, detectives came back. They showed me photos of papers, accounts, and faces I didn't recognize. "Karen's brother isn't working alone," one detective said. "There's a group. They target older people. Family members help without fully understanding how far it goes." I thought of Mark. "Some understand," I said quietly. The detective didn't argue. By afternoon, word spread around the neighborhood. Neighbors stopped by with food, kind words, and offers to help. I felt embarrassed but also thankful. I wasn't invisible. I wasn't alone. Then the phone rang. It was Karen. Emily told me not to answer, but something inside me needed to hear her voice. I put the call on speaker. You ruined everything, Karen said, her voice sharp. Do you know that? No, I replied calmly. You did. She laughed, but it sounded thin. You think this ends with the police. You don't understand how this works. I understand enough, I said. You stole, you lied, you scared me in my own home. There was silence. Then she spoke again, quieter. Mark will pay for this. That made my blood run cold. Leave him alone. She hung up. Emily's face hardened. That call helps us too, she said. Threats matter. That evening the police took Mark into protective custody. They said it was for his safety. I wanted to see him, but they said not yet. I sat alone in my living room after everyone left. The sun dipped low, painting the walls orange. I held Henry's watch again and whispered, I'm trying. Just as night settled in, someone knocked on my door. I froze. The officer outside turned and opened it before I could move. A man stood there in a suit, clean, calm, smiling. I'm here on behalf of a client, he said smoothly. We'd like to make you an offer. An offer? The officer looked at me. Do you want to hear it? I swallowed. Because something told me this offer would change everything. I looked at the man in the suit. He stood straight, holding a thin folder under his arm. His shoes were clean, too clean for someone who came during all this trouble. I don't want any offers, I said. He smiled politely. You might want to hear this one. Emily stepped forward. Who are you? She asked. Daniel Price, he said, legal representative. For who? Susan asked from behind me. Daniel's smile did not change. For people who would like this situation to end quietly. That word quietly made my skin crawl. The police officer crossed his arms. You can talk here, he said, nothing private. Daniel nodded. That's fine. He opened the folder and pulled out a paper. Mrs. Wilson, he said, my clients are willing to return a portion of the money taken immediately. In exchange, you withdraw your complaints and agree to sell the house. I felt my heart drop. Sell my house? Yes, he said smoothly, at a fair price. Emily shook her head. This is coercion, she said. Daniel raised his hands. It's a solution. A solution for thieves, Susan snapped. I stared at the paper. Numbers jumped out at me. Big numbers, enough to fix many things, enough to tempt someone tired and scared. But not enough to buy my silence. I will not sell my house, I said. Daniel tilted his head. Think carefully. Court cases take time, they take strength. You've had a stressful week. I am stronger than you think, I replied. For the first time his smile slipped. Then I'm sorry, he said, closing the folder. I truly am. Leave, the officer said. Daniel turned to go, then paused at the door. Some storms don't pass, he said quietly. They break things. When he left, the house felt colder. That was a test, Emily said. You passed. But what happens now? I asked. She looked serious. Now they change tactics. That night I dreamed of Henry. He stood in our garden, holding the fence we built together. Stand firm, he said. I woke up with tears on my face. The next morning news came fast. Police had raided an office downtown. Karen's brother was arrested, computers, documents, cash all taken. I felt relief wash over me. But it didn't last. By afternoon, Emily received a call. She put it on speaker. They're filing a motion, a man's voice said. They're claiming Mrs. Wilson is mentally unfit to manage her finances. I gasped, what? Emily clenched her jaw. On what grounds? Age, the voice replied. Confusion, emotional distress. I felt sick. They want control, Emily said after the call ended. If they get it, they can freeze your decisions. So they can take the house anyway, I whispered. Yes, she said. Susan grabbed my hand. That's a lie, you're sharp. I know, I said, but how do we prove it? Emily smiled slightly. We already started. She explained the plan. Doctors, assessments, records, proof that I handled my life just fine. It won't be easy, she warned. That evening Mark called from protective custody. His voice was shaky. I'm sorry, he said. I should have stopped sooner. I know, I said gently. Tell the truth, that's how you help now. I will. He promised. The next day I went to see a doctor. I answered questions. I solved puzzles. I remembered dates and stories. The doctor smiled. You're doing very well, she said. Hope flickered. But as I returned home, a crowd waited outside. Cameras. Reporters. One stepped forward. Mrs. Wilson, is it true you're being investigated for mental decline? My heart raced. Before I could answer, a voice cut through the noise. That's enough. I turned. Mr. Adams, the bank manager, stood beside me. She is one of the clearest clients I've ever worked with, he said firmly, and I will say that anywhere. The cameras flashed. That night Emily called. We have a court date, she said, soon. I sat at my table, staring at the wall. Court. Judges. Truth. Fear returned, heavy and sharp. But beneath it was something new. Resolve. Because they thought age made me weak. And they were about to learn how wrong they were. As I turned off the light, my phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number. You won't make it to court. I froze. Because now this was no longer just about money. I stared at the message on my phone. You won't make it to court. My heart beat so fast it hurt. My hands felt cold. I sat very still, listening to the quiet house. Susan was asleep in the guest room. The police car was parked outside, but fear still crept in like a shadow. I showed the message to Emily first thing in the morning. That's a direct threat, she said firmly. We're reporting this now. The police took the phone and copied the message. One officer looked at me and spoke gently. We'll increase protection, Mrs. Wilson. Someone will be with you at all times. All times. I never thought I would need that. The days before court moved slowly. Too slowly. I met with doctors again. I met with Emily again and again. She asked me questions and practiced answers with me. Just tell the truth, she said. You don't need fancy words. I nodded. I know my life, I said. I can talk about that. Still at night fear came back. I dreamed of footsteps, of doors opening, of Henry calling my name. On the third night something happened. I was sitting in the living room, knitting, trying to stay calm. The officer outside walked past the window, checking the street. Everything felt normal. Then the phone rang. Not my cell phone. The house phone. No one ever used that anymore. I stared at it. Ring. Ring. I picked it up slowly. Hello. Silence. Then breathing. Slow, heavy. You should have taken the offer, a man's voice said. My stomach twisted. Who is this? You're tired, he said. You don't need court, you don't need stress. Leave me alone, I said, my voice shaking. You won't win, he replied. People like you never do. I slammed the phone down. My whole body shook. I called the officer inside. He reported it right away. Maury notes, Maury papers, Maury proof. They're panicking, Emily said later. That's why they're making mistakes. Court day came faster than I expected. I woke up before the sun. I wore my best blue dress, the one Henry liked. I pinned my hair carefully. I looked at myself in the mirror. I am not weak, I said out loud. A police car drove me to the courthouse. Cameras were already there. People whispered as I walked inside. The courtroom was big and cold. I sat beside Emily. Across the room, Karen's brother sat with his lawyer. Karen was there too. She would not look at me. Mark was brought in last. He looked small, nervous, but when he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. I'm here, he whispered. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The case began. Karen's brother's lawyer spoke first. He talked about age, about confusion, about mistakes. Then Emily stood. She spoke clearly and calmly. She talked about the bank records, the fake papers, the threats, the break-in. Then she called the bank manager. Mr. Adams stood and told the truth, about the forged signature, about the lies, about how I answered every question clearly that day. Then Emily turned to me. Mrs. Wilson, she said, please tell the court what happened. I stood up. My legs shook, but my voice did not. I told them everything, about Henry, about Mark, about the envelope under my dresser, about the night someone tried to break into my home. The room was silent. When I finished, the judge looked at me for a long moment. Then he spoke. I see no confusion here, he said. I see a woman who knows exactly what was done to her. Karen's face went pale. But before the judge could continue, shouting broke out near the back of the room. A man stood up suddenly. It was Daniel Price, the man in the suit. "This isn't over," he yelled. "You don't understand who you're dealing with." Officers rushed toward him. The judge slammed his gavel. "Remove him from my courtroom." As Daniel was dragged away, he turned and looked straight at me. And smiled. That smile told me one thing. Even after court, this fight was not finished yet. The courtroom slowly emptied after Daniel was taken away. My legs felt weak as I sat back down. Emily placed a hand on my arm. "You did very well," she whispered. But my eyes were still on the door where Daniel had been dragged out. That smile stayed in my mind, cold, calm, like he knew something we did not. The judge cleared his throat. "This court will take a short break," he said. "We will return to deliver a ruling." A break. Waiting is sometimes worse than fear. I sat quietly while people whispered around me. Karen stared at the floor. Her brother looked angry, tapping his foot again and again. Mark sat behind me, guarded by an officer. I could feel his eyes on my back. After a while, the judge returned. Everyone stood. The judge looked down at his papers, then at me. "This court finds no evidence that Mrs. Wilson is mentally unfit," he said firmly. "The request to control her finances is denied." My heart jumped. "Furthermore," he continued, "due to clear signs of fraud, intimidation, and attempted theft, this court orders a full investigation and immediate protection of Mrs. Wilson's assets and property." Emily squeezed my hand. Karen gasped, her brother cursed under his breath. The judge raised his voice. "Any further contact with Mrs. Wilson will result in immediate arrest." The gavel slammed. It was over. Or so I thought. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Officers guided me to the car. "Mrs. Wilson," someone called, "do you feel safe now?" I paused. "I feel awake," I said. That night I returned home. Police still watched the street. Susan cooked dinner. For the first time in days, I ate a full meal. "I'm proud of you," she said. "I was scared," I admitted. She smiled. "Brave people usually are." Later, Mark was brought to see me. An officer stood nearby. "I'm sorry," Mark said, tears running down his face. "I broke your trust." I looked at him for a long moment. "You hurt me," I said, "but you told the truth in the end." "I want to fix this," he said. "That will take time," I replied. He nodded. "I'll wait." After he left, I felt tired in a deep way. I went to bed early. Sometime after midnight, I woke to a strange sound. Not breaking glass. Not footsteps. A soft beeping. I sat up. It came from the front of the house. I slowly walked to the window and peeked out. A small red light blinked near my front door. My heart raced. I stepped back just as my phone rang. "Unknown number." I answered, shaking. "Hello." A familiar voice spoke calmly. "You won the court today," Daniel said, "but courts don't decide everything." "What do you want?" I whispered. "To remind you," he replied, "that storms don't always break houses." The line went dead. Outside, the red light kept blinking. And in that moment, I realized something terrible. They were not trying to scare me anymore. They were testing how close they could get. I stood very still, staring at the blinking red light near my front door. It flashed slowly like it was breathing. Susan came out of the guest room. "What's wrong?" she whispered. I pointed. She gasped, "Don't move." She called the police right away. I stayed where I was, my heart pounding so loud I was sure everyone could hear it. Within minutes, officers rushed in. One of them carefully stepped outside and examined the small device. He turned back with a serious face. "It's a tracker," he said. "Not a bomb, but it shouldn't be here." My knees almost gave out. "They put it on my house." "Yes," he said, "to watch, to follow patterns." The red light was covered and taken away. The officers stayed for hours, checking every corner of the house. They found nothing else. "That doesn't mean they're done," one officer warned. I slept very little that night. The next morning, Emily arrived early. Her face was tight. "This changes things," she said. "They're pushing boundaries." "Why won't they stop?" I asked. "Because they're losing," she replied, "and losing makes people careless." That same morning, news broke on TV. Karen's brother was officially charged. His picture filled the screen. Fraud, threats, elder abuse. I felt a strange mix of relief and fear. Then the doorbell rang. I froze again. The officer outside checked first. "It's safe," he said. A woman stood there, young, neatly dressed, nervous. "My name is Rachel," she said. "I used to work for them." "For who?" Emily asked, stepping closer. "The group," Rachel replied. "Karen's brother, Daniel, all of them." My heart skipped. "Why are you here?" Rachel swallowed. "Because I'm scared, and because I heard what happened in court." She looked at me. "You stood up to them." Emily brought her inside. Rachel's hands shook as she spoke. "They have files," she said. "Known routines, schedules. They planned everything, including using Mark." My chest tightened. "They planned to use my grandson." Rachel nodded. "They knew he loved you." Tears filled my eyes. Rachel leaned forward. "They're breaking apart now, but Daniel, he doesn't like to lose." Emily asked quietly, "What is he planning?" Rachel hesitated. "One last move." "What kind of move?" I asked. Rachel looked straight at me. "One that makes you look guilty." The room went silent. Before anyone could speak, my phone buzzed. A message from Mark. "They moved me, I don't know where I am. They said it's for my safety, but something feels wrong." My heart dropped. Because if Daniel was planning one last move, and Mark had suddenly disappeared, then the storm was not over. It was gathering. My hands shook as I read Mark's message again. "They moved me, I don't know where I am." Emily stood up fast. "That's not standard," she said. "Protective custody locations are known to the officers in charge." Susan looked pale. "Call him now." I tried. It went straight to voicemail. Fear pressed on my chest like a heavy stone. Emily called the police unit handling Mark's case. Her face changed as she listened. "What do you mean he was transferred?" she asked. "By who?" She ended the call and turned to us. "There's no record of an approved transfer." My heart dropped. "Then where is he?" "We don't know," she said. Sirens filled the street minutes later. Maury officers arrived. Radios crackled. Doors opened and closed. People spoke in quick, quiet voices. An officer knelt in front of me. "Mrs. Wilson, we believe someone impersonated an official to move your grandson." "Daniel," I whispered. The officer nodded. That afternoon felt unreal. I sat on the couch while plans were made around me. They showed me photos of badges, fake ones. They showed me phone logs, spoofed numbers. Everything looked real, but nothing was. "They're trying to break you," Emily said softly. "If you panic, they win." I took a slow breath. "Then I won't panic." Evening came. The house lights glowed warm, but fear stayed. Susan held my hand. "He'll be found," she said. "He has to be." At 8:14 p.m. my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Hello." Daniel's voice came through, calm and smooth. "You're strong," he said. "I'll give you that." "Where is my grandson?" I asked. "Safe," he replied, "for now." My jaw tightened. "What do you want?" "Closure," he said. "Withdraw everything, publicly say you were mistaken." "I won't," I said. He chuckled. "Then we let the story write itself." The line went dead. 10 minutes later, my TV turned on by itself. Susan jumped. I didn't touch it. The news channel played. A headline filled the screen. Elderly woman accused of financial abuse. My face was on the screen. The reporter spoke fast. Sources claim Mrs. Helen Wilson pressured her grandson into illegal transfers. Lies, Susan shouted. My heart pounded, but my mind was clear. They're trying to flip the story. Emily's phone buzzed. They filed it, she said. Emergency motion. They're blaming you to force a delay. A delay. Time. That's what Daniel wanted. At 9:02 p.m., another message came to my phone. A photo. Mark sitting in a dim room, a clock on the wall behind him. Under the photo were 4 words. Choose now or lose. I closed my eyes and felt something steady rise inside me. I thought of Henry, of the fence we built, of the mornings with tea and quiet. I opened my eyes. Emily, I said, my voice calm, we don't choose fear. She nodded, then we choose the truth. The power flickered. Once. Twice. Then the house went dark. And in the darkness, a knock sounded at the door. 3 slow knocks. Just like before. The house was completely dark. No lights, no sound from the street, just the 3 slow knocks at the door. Susan grabbed my arm. Don't move. Another knock came, louder this time. Mrs. Wilson, a man's voice said, Police, open the door. My heart jumped, but something felt wrong. The real officers always announced themselves clearly. They always used the radio first. Emily whispered, do not open it. I stayed still. The handle turned. Locked. The voice changed. You're making a mistake. That was not a police voice. Susan backed away and whispered, call the officer outside. Before she could, blue lights flashed through the windows. Real sirens screamed down the street. The knocking stopped. Footsteps ran. A car engine roared. Within seconds, officers burst in from the back, flashlights sweeping the room. Are you okay? One shouted. I nodded, shaking. They tried again, I said. An officer spoke into his radio. Suspect fleeing, dark sedan heading east. The house lights came back on. Everything looked normal again, but nothing felt normal. Emily took a deep breath. That was Daniel, she said. He wanted to scare you into giving up. But why tonight? I asked. She looked at her phone. Because tomorrow morning the judge decides whether the story against you stands. Time again. Later that night, the police confirmed something worse. The fake report about you is spreading fast, an officer said. Social media, news sites. I saw the comments on Susan's phone. She's lying. Poor grandson. Old people shouldn't control money. Each word hurt, but I forced myself to keep breathing. I know who I am, I said quietly. At dawn, Emily returned with a plan. We go public, she said, but on our terms. How? I asked. With facts, she replied, and witnesses. She explained everything. The bank records, the threats, the tracker, the fake transfer, the break-in, and one more thing. Rachel, she said, she's ready to testify. Hope sparked. Mid-morning, my phone rang. Mark. Grandma, he whispered. They moved me again. I think they're watching this call. Listen to me, I said calmly. Tell the truth, don't fight, help the police. I am, he said. I left something behind. What? I asked. A recording, he said quickly. Daniel talking about framing you. My breath caught. Do the police have it? Yes, Mark said. They're playing it now. The line cut. Minutes felt like hours. Then Emily's phone buzzed. She read the message and smiled for the first time in days. They have him, she said. They traced the call. Daniel is in custody. I covered my mouth. Tears filled my eyes. But it's not over yet, Emily added. Now comes the hardest part. What? I asked. She looked at me seriously. You'll need to face the cameras again, and this time the whole country will be watching. My hands trembled. Outside, news vans were already lining the street. I stood up straight. If they think I'm too old to understand money, I said, then let them listen. Because tomorrow the truth would speak. And someone would finally pay for the lies. The cameras were everywhere, big cameras, small cameras, phones held high, voices calling my name from all sides. Mrs. Wilson, how does it feel to be accused? Did you steal from your grandson? Are you really fit to manage your money? My legs felt weak, but I stood straight. Emily walked beside me. Susan held my hand. We stopped in front of the microphones. Emily nodded at me. When you're ready. I took a deep breath. I thought of Henry. I thought of the quiet mornings. I thought of the words they used against me. Too old. I leaned toward the microphone. My name is Helen Wilson, I said clearly. I am 74 years old. I am not confused. I am not weak. And I did not steal from my grandson. The noise faded. People listened. I trusted my family, I continued. That trust was broken. When I asked questions, I was told I was too old to understand money, but I asked anyway, and because I asked, the truth came out. Emily stepped forward and held up papers. These are bank records, she said. These are forged documents. These are police reports. And this, she held up a phone, is a recording. The recording played. Daniel's voice filled the air, calm, clear. She won't last, he said on the recording. Push the story, make her look guilty. People believe what they see on the news. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Emily turned the phone off. This man was arrested last night. He is charged with fraud, threats, and witness tampering. A reporter shouted, "What about the grandson?" I stepped forward again. My grandson made mistakes, I said, but he told the truth in the end, and telling the truth matters. The questions stopped. That night the story changed. Headlines changed. Asterisk elderly woman cleared of all ACCUSATIONS. Bank fraud ring exposed. Truth behind the lies. I sat on my couch watching the news in silence. Susan hugged me. You did it, she whispered. I didn't do it alone, I replied. The next morning Mark was brought home. He looked tired, smaller than I remembered. He stood in my doorway unsure. I don't expect forgiveness, he said softly. I looked at him for a long time. You hurt me, I said, but you also helped stop something bad. That matters. He nodded, tears falling. I need time, I added. I'll wait, he said. Days passed, quiet days. The police stayed nearby, then slowly left. The house felt like mine again. Emily visited with good news. Most of the money can be recovered, she said. Not all, but enough. I smiled. Money can be replaced, I said. Peace is harder. One afternoon, I went to the bank alone. Mr. Adams smiled when he saw me. Good to see you, Mrs. Wilson. I came to open a new account, I said. Of course, he replied. As he typed, a young woman nearby watched me. She leaned over to her friend and whispered, She's old. I looked at her and smiled. Yes, I said gently, and I understand my money very well. They went quiet. That evening I sat by my window with tea, watching the sun go down. The street was calm. The birds returned. I thought it was over. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. Some storms wait. My smile faded. Because even though Daniel was in custody, I knew one thing. The story was not finished yet. I stared at the message on my phone. Some storms wait. I did not reply. I placed the phone face down on the table and took a slow breath. Fear tried to rise, but I pushed it down. I had learned something important over the past days. Fear grows when you feed it. Susan noticed my face. Another message. Yes, I said, but not one I need to answer. That night I slept with the window slightly open. Fresh air helped me breathe. I dreamed of Henry again. He stood by the fence, the sun behind him. He did not speak. He only nodded. In the morning, Emily came by with coffee and news. Daniel is still in custody, she said. No bail yet, but someone is still sending messages. So he has help, I said. Yes, she replied, and we need to find out who. We made a plan. The police would trace every message. The bank would watch my accounts closely. I would keep my routine, but not alone. That afternoon I went for a walk with Susan. The street felt friendly again. Neighbors waved. One woman hugged me and said, "You gave me courage." I smiled, but I stayed alert. At the corner, a man leaned against a car. He wore a cap pulled low. He looked away when I glanced at him. My heart skipped. We kept walking. At home, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a single page. "Meeting tomorrow. Come alone. Bring the keys." My hands shook. Susan read it and frowned. Keys to what? I swallowed. The house. Emily arrived within the hour. She read the note and shook her head. "You're not going," she said. "They want something," I replied, "and if I don't go, they'll try another way." Emily thought for a long moment. "Then we do this safely, on our terms." We set everything up, police nearby, cameras hidden, a public place chosen by us, not them. We would not bring the keys, we would bring the truth. The next day the sun was bright, too bright for how my stomach felt. We drove to a small park by the river. Children played on swings, birds skimmed the water, it looked harmless. A man sat on a bench near the trees. He wore a grey jacket. When he saw me, he stood. "You're late," he said. "I'm on time," I replied. He smiled thinly. "You've caused trouble." "You started it," I said. He stepped closer. "Daniel wants you quiet." "I won't be," I said. His smile faded. "Then you lose the house." I felt my heart pound, but my voice stayed calm. "You don't have it." He leaned in. "We will." That was when sirens sounded. The man's eyes widened. He turned to run. Officers closed in from all sides. He was caught in seconds. As they led him away, he looked back at me with anger. "You think this ends it?" I watched him go. "I think it ends you." Later that evening, Emily called. "They found links," she said. "Maury names, Maury plans." I sat by the window again, tea warm in my hands. "Storms wait," the message had said. Maybe. But now I was ready. And I knew something they did not. Waiting can be strength too. The next morning I woke up before the sun. The house was quiet, but it was a good quiet this time, not the kind that hides danger, the kind that feels settled. Emily arrived early with a smile I had not seen before. "It's done," she said. I sat up straight. "What's done?" "The storm," she replied. "It finally broke." She told me everything slowly, so I could understand every word. The man at the park had talked, not because he was kind, but because he was scared. He gave names, places, and plans. The police followed every lead. Phones were traced, accounts were frozen, Maury arrests were made. Daniel was charged again, this time with more evidence than before. No tricks, no deals, no waiting. "He won't be sending messages anymore," Emily said. I closed my eyes and let out a long breath I felt like I had been holding for weeks. Later that day, Mark came to see me. He looked different, calmer, honest. "I told them everything," he said, "even the parts that made me look bad." "That's how truth works," I replied. "It shows all sides." He nodded. "I don't expect you to forget." "I won't," I said gently, "but I can choose what comes next." He smiled sadly. "Thank you for that." After he left, Susan and I sat on the porch. The sun was warm, a breeze moved the trees. "You know," she said, "they thought they could take everything from you." "They tried," I said. "And they failed." "Yes," I said, "because they didn't understand something." She looked at me. "What's that?" I smiled. "Age does not erase wisdom, it sharpens it." A week later I went back to the bank one last time, not out of fear, out of choice. Mr. Adams greeted me kindly. "Everything is secure now," he said. "I know," I replied. As I turned to leave, I heard someone behind me whisper, "That's her." I turned around. A young man stood there holding papers. He looked nervous. "My grandmother watches the news," he said. "She said you helped her feel brave." My eyes filled with tears. "Tell her," I said softly, "to always ask questions." That evening I sat by the window with my tea just like before. Birds hopped along the fence. The street was calm. Henry's watch rested in my hand. "They said I was too old to understand money," I whispered to the quiet room. until the bank manager asked them to leave. I smiled, because the real lesson was never about money. It was about voice. And no one is ever too old to use it.